So, let's see. Good evening, everyone. It's nice to meet you. So I'll be taking you through this session, and I hope that by the time we are done, you're going to learn like one or two things from it, right? And designing an immersive experience in Power BI. So I believe if you're here, you're likely a Power BI developer or a data analyst or maybe a citizen analyst. You want to improve the experience that your users have when they work with your reports, right? You want to make sure that the users enjoy it when they open your reports, because one of the true measures of how effective your analysis is, or one of the true measures of how good your report is how fast people adopt your report. So if you push a report, are people adopting the report? If you're done with the piece of analysis, how are people interacting with it? Or is it that you've done a very nice report and no one is using it? That means you're focused, that means you're talking about adoption here, right? But not just adoption, but how fast the Power BI report you've developed has been adopted. So I'm a very big advocate for treating data, what will I call it? Data product as a product. For example, each Power BI report you're developing, I'm a very big advocate that you treat it as a product. So if you're treating your Power BI report as a product, it means that your product is going to have features, right? You have your navigations, you have your buttons, you have your icons. In Power BI, for example, we have bookmarks, you have drill through. So how each of these services join together and give your report users a very good experience is dependent on how you design your report. It's dependent on how you utilize them, because you can still use these features and abuse them, right? You can still use it and use it poorly, and the report you designed will be, the experience will be very terrible. So I think the core word or the operative word here is immersive, right? What does it mean to be immersive? So it's making someone feel completely involved and engaged. That's how you have users coming back to your report over and over again. Are they involved? Are they engaged? Or do they just come to your report and your report is just bland, right? So you can design a report and just know your choice of color is terrible, your 20 filters on your report. So for people to use your reports, they have to click on 5, 6, 7, or 8 buttons before they can use your reports. That's very bad. You don't want that to have control. You want to have control over the values that you're going to be showing your users. You want to have control over how they interact with each other and all that. So you want it to be that whenever people open your report, like, wow, okay, this is great. This is great. Yeah, they have expectation, but it's not just about the expectations. Their expectations have been met, and they're having a good experience. They're like, oh, James, what's up? Have you seen this report? I saw this in this report and it's really good. So someone else who hasn't, you realize that the people you're using your reports will become evangelists, right? So become evangelists for your reports. But it's very important. You can try your best as an analyst or a Power BI report developer to promote your report. You can do your best to push it out to people like, okay, I want this person, I want this department to use my report. It becomes easier when people within the same department start promoting the report. Oh, if you're looking for this piece of analysis, I think you should just check this report. It's simple, it's easy to use, and the experience is great. Or you also get some little tips here and there that you didn't even ask for. You realize that more people start talking about your report, and it makes you proud as well, because it means that people are using the results of your analysis to make business decisions. You get to see decisions based on the analysis you've done, how they transform the business, or how they shape the development of a particular product. Okay, so I would like to ask a question before we continue. Maybe in the comment section, what does immersive mean for you? Like, okay, as a report developer, or if you're someone who uses a report, what does an immersive report look like for you? What does it mean for you? You can just drop it in the chat. I just want to make sure that you guys are following along and I'm not speaking to myself. Yeah, so I see completely drawn in. Yeah, that's true. Just like 2 more and we'll continue. Seems like no one else is coming up with a comment. Engaging, exactly. That's the word, engaging. The report has to be engaging. It has to draw your users in. Then you should provide value at the same time, right? So I think, okay, this too is cute. We can move on from here. So I'm going to be taking this in parts. I'm going to be listing out a few things that help you design an immersive user experience that your user wouldn't be tired of. They can always come back to it. So the first one is I'm going to be talking about your layout. So whenever you want to work on a Power BI project, the first thing that should come to your mind is the report layout, right? What is my report going to look like? How do I go about this layout, right? So these are some of the decisions you have to make. For some people, they can just spin up Power BI, start designing a simple report. You can just, for example, just go back to, let's say, this, let me switch. Yeah, they can just switch and go back to, let's say, Power BI, for example. And the next thing, you're building reports, you're transforming data, that's great. But if you want to have a plan for the report that you're designing, right? You want to have structure, you want to have an understanding on the type of reports that you're working with. How should you place your values? Because it's very important that you're not just giving the results of an analysis, you also want to present results. Presentation is very important. People trust things that are good. People trust things that look fine. If the result of the result of analysis is good, but your design is terrible, you realize that people start asking you questions. Okay, go and add a button. Okay, go and add a color. You realize that something you would have completed within a period of 3 or 4 days, you are spending longer periods of time doing that. But you designed a very poor report and the user experience is not very nice. And now you have to go back over and over and over again to design a report. So after doing your requirement gathering, understanding the needs of your analysis, and now you understand the basic metrics that want to appear in your report. Well, the next thing that comes to your mind is, okay, what should my report look like? What should the layout be like? For some people, they don't worry about that. You can spin up anything, push you to reorder it, but you realize in the end that your report won't look nice because there's no order, there's no grouping, because measures and metrics that look alike are supposed to sit together in one location, but you didn't account for that. So you're just doing anything that feels right by you. So one of the ways I go about, let me show you this. Go here. This. So one of the ways I go about designing a good report is that, for example, you can choose to use PowerPoint, for example. When we're talking about layout design now, to use PowerPoint, for example. Let's do this, PowerPoint. You see, I have some simple templates here, but let's look at the template from scratch. If you are doing that, you just take this out. So you understand how, this is where you start the ideation of what your report should look like. Are you going to insert icons? Are you going to insert logo? You understand this, and you also have the size of your report. So whatever you're going to be designing as the layout for your report will also correspond to this. You need to see the size of your report. What you do is go to Canvas settings, and Canvas settings gives you the default size. Normally, I will align this to the middle to make sure that I'm seeing everything that is here. I work with big reports and a lot of data. So what I do most of the time is I try to create a custom size. I leave the height usually at around 1,500 and the width at around 2,500. This gives us a very big size that we can work with. If this doesn't work for you, you can always modify this. This one should be like 1,200 or 1,000, let's see, 200 or 1,300, depending on your choice, because you would have played around with this most of the time. You understand what you're looking for and you know what it looks like. So this is what I will have in mind, right? So if you go back to PowerPoint, for example, now I already know the size of what I'm working with, right? So if you come to PowerPoint, you see you can format your background, you get to see all the information about the page that you're working on. You can start designing your report. You can insert shapes, you can control sizes, you can modify the layout, right? And all that. So what I want to do now is also show you a simple layout design that we can work with here. So normally in your report, when you're designing your report, you work with shapes here. Work with shapes here. So what would you want to insert for a start? You want to insert maybe like a rectangle. Give me some seconds. My mouse is misbehaving. Yep. So you start here, you have an idea of what your navigation bar is going to look like. After that, you decide on the width of your navigation bar. You have your navigation bar. Up next, you're going to have like your title bar, right, which sits at the top here. Your title bar sits at the top here. And for preference, we would leave this as this. Then you also want to think about where you want to put your logo. For example, your logo can sit on the end here, right? So you would want to insert the same thing, a rectangle again, for example, for your logo, which sits here. But you notice something that as you're designing your report, all the colors look alike. That's something you should keep in mind as you're designing your report. You have to change these colors as you're choosing your layout. Based on the type of visuals that you want to show, it's possible you have certain value, a very big value you want to sit in the middle like this, a value that's a report that people will interact with. Then you have two other, right here, two other values that should show up here. Great. I'm trying as much as I can since we don't have much time to be fast about this. Normally I'll start worrying about the values that we work with, right? So I worry about the values, what size, the spacing, each of these has to count. So when you start talking about color, you can start with the background color, for example. Let's go here. Let me adjust this. You give your background, for example, a gray color, format the background. And this tells us let's see, this is solid. And this gives us the feel of the background. So you can choose something, yep, this is a gray color for the background. Now, when you're choosing your layout too, you also have to, most of the time, work with the color palette, a color that will guide your design and how you want this to look like. So what you do most of the time is you have to choose a color palette, right? So what I encourage often is to go to, let's see, let me escape this. Just come here and just search for color palette. That's if your company doesn't have a existing color palette, then you want to find something online. So there are comfortable websites you can work with. If you notice, I've clicked on this a lot most of the time, maybe for personal project or doing something. So all you have to do is to click on this and you get to find the color palette and you get to choose a color palette, the one that works for you, the one that helps your design. It's actually free. You don't have to worry about paying for anything. You just start the generator. The generator generates random colors for you that you can work with. So this is a simple one that you can work with here. You can ignore any of this. What you actually need is just this code. Come back to PowerPoint and so what in PowerPoint, there's a field. The most important thing here for you is the field. You can choose the field and you can change it, right? It says more fields. You go to hex. This is where you paste the color that you've already chosen online and realize that this color will also change. If the color you want is already present here, you can also change it in the field here. It's possible the color is dark, white, or some, let's see. Let's say this is for this. Remember, this is supposed to be like your logo. We don't have the logo here, so you leave it out. Then this is the background. Most of the time, your background is just white. The background is white. Then you want to take out the outline. You don't need the outline at all. No outline. That means you don't need the borders. So this is white. Outline is no outline, white. Outline is no outline. Now you have the simple stuff that you can work with. If you're not comfortable with this, you can always go back here to choose a different color. You can modify the colors that you have. You can look for something else, right? So that's for this. On designing a simple layout. By the time you're done designing in Power BI, you have to export this. So for the purpose of this demonstration, I'm going to choose a different color here at the top. To choose a different color here, and I'm going to choose a bit different color here. Yep, something like this. This is for the purpose of demonstration, okay? Then what you can do also after this is to export this. You can choose to select everything. You click on export. You would want to export this as a picture. You change file type. You do as what? PNG, portable network graphics. Then you do a bit of save as. So let's call this, let me save this on my desktop. This background one. All slides, we just have one slide in this report. I can go back to Power BI and return to the default site as we have earlier. Then your interest now would be the canvas background. You can now import what we just created in the desktop. Let me see all images. Let me test this. Let me see desktop. Yep, here. You can import this here. So it's not showing right now because we have the transparency at 100%. You want to take the transparency down. And you see now that we have been able to design a simple layout for ourselves in Power BI. All you have to do most of the time is just duplicate this and you have this over and over. You don't have to worry about anything. Your users won't have to like click on this to worry about scattering something in your report. But now you have a simple layout that you can work with. So some of your pages may require a little modification. So I always recommend you do your modification there and come back and you'll be fine. So you have your company, your design, you have your company logo where you can put your company logo here. And from there, you can insert your report title, you can put your navigations and stuff like that. So I just want to confirm if you guys can still hear me, if you're still with me. Okay, thank you. So this is how you design a sample layout, right? You do a lot of, you can use Figma and other tools, but I feel like Power PowerPoint is super easy, right? Most of our laptops already have PowerPoint. You can just do that here. So let's go back to our presentation. We're on this, talking about layout. So layout has a strong influence on the type of, on how people interact with your report. I'm a strong advocate for having a fewer number of visuals on your report. You don't need to have like 100 visuals on your report on a single page. You can split them into multiple pages. Just add a good navigation experience, add a good bookmarks to your report, and people will find it easy to use. You don't want to overwhelm them. In your layout, you have over maybe 300, 400 slides there, and your users are struggling to understand what is happening, right? You don't want that to happen. So from layout, I thought I should mention buttons and icons, right? When necessary, you would work with buttons and icons. You would want to hide certain things and want people to interact with it when they click on buttons. You get that. So you can use your buttons as buttons and icons from aesthetics, so that when people come over, when they see a button, the button tells them what they should do. There are some buttons you just see, it tells you this is for amount. You don't even need to read the caption, and the moment you see the button, you understand that. So I'll show you how to insert buttons later on. The navigation experience. How do people navigate your reports? What does it feel like, right, to work with your report? So you have people, how do you navigate it? I think that's a very big problem with some reports. Designing a very good navigation experience is very important. And sometimes sometimes your type of report will influence the type of navigation experience that you're going to give your users. For example, let's go to Power BI. So this is page 1. This should be page 2. And this is page 3, page 4. So we have okay, I'm taking this out. Yep, delete. We want to have the background 1, 2. So we call this page 3, and this is going to be page 4. So what you want to do is that there are 2 ways to go about creating a navigation experience for your users. So most of the time you would have created your reports already, and let me see this. You would want to insert, you have options, you have buttons. If you go to buttons, you have the page navigator. The page navigator comes default, right? Comes by default, but there are instances where you wouldn't want to use the page navigator. But let's work with this example for now. So we can modify this. We want our page navigation to be here. So what we have to do is go here, and so we have the style, we have the shape, we have rectangle, we have rotation, then we have RIU, we have the grid layout, we have horizontal, and we have vertical. The moment you change this to vertical, you see that this is going to change. So you would want to modify this. Now, whenever you're creating your navigation experience, there are some factors you should keep in mind. So for example, if I have like, let's say, if I have like tooltips here, and maybe drill through pages, they are likely to show up here, and you don't want that to happen. So modifying your navigation experience, you would want to give your users, your navigation experience should be what is it? It should be easy to see, it should be unique, the interaction with your navigation buttons should also be great. So for example, here you have 3 options. If you go to the styling, there's default, there's hover, there's press and selected. So for me, I think the most important one from the start is usually the default, right? What should be the default fill? You're not worried about the color right now. You want the fill. The fill is the color that you use for your navigation. What should be the default fill? You see white. If you remember when we were creating this button, this was the color I selected, right? So you have the default field here. Maybe you don't want any fill. You make this transparent. If you make this transparent, then That means you can come here and make your text white. So this gives you your pages. Then something else you can do again, there's the option for borders, for example. Let's look at this carefully. There's option for borders. So you would want to have maybe very thin borders. You don't want black right now. You want something that will show up a bit. You have this, right? So you can, let's see. You can increase the transparency of your buttons. That's not too much, because you would want it to be that later on when you're hovering over this, there's going to be a difference from a field that has been selected and a field that has not been selected. So a lot of people try to pour colors into their navigation. You don't need a lot of color in your navigation. You just want to focus on the selected page. Let's go to the selected page. This is a selected. If it has been selected, we want to point out that this has been selected, right? So you can also use the field to modify that. You bring this back, you can go here and work with a different color, for example, this color, which tells us that this page has been selected. You can, let's see. Yeah, this should do it, I believe. Then you have this, but there's something else that you would also want to correct. You see that when you hover over this, nothing is happening, right? You would want to change it when you hover over this, especially these pages. So you don't want to do something grand like the font size should increase. Yeah, people do that, but you want to control something. So all you have to do is go on hover. On hover, you don't want many things to change. You just want the border. The border in this instance should be white, and you will want to reduce the transparency. Now you notice that when we hover over this, it's super easy for you to see this. So let me zoom in on this so that you can see this. You see that you're not doing some big or grand stuff, because I believe in simplicity and it's going to be easy. So your users are wondering, like, okay, what page? They come in, they know they can navigate to these pages. They see this color, it's obvious that this is selected. So there are other instances where you can do something, something funny, like aligning the color of the background with the color of the page that has been selected. You can also do something like that, right? All you have to do is, I believe, go here, go to style, you go to fill, and go to fill and make sure that you're on selected. This is hover. So you want to focus on selected. You want to modify the fill for the selected page, which I believe we use this color. You select this, you have to adjust this a bit. You have to adjust this a bit. And it gives that, let me go back. You give that feel of, okay, this is the current page. You have to change the color of the font size of the page that has been selected. But that's not what we are doing right now. So I'll stick with what I started with earlier. So I'm going to click on this and we are here. And now we have a good navigation experience. And the good thing about having this is that you already have a structure. You have your pages at the top. Now you can add simple filters to this page right here. So we're racing against time. So as much as I can, I will try to, so you can, and the good thing about this is you can copy this and paste it on other pages. Now there are other instances where you have a situation where you can't use this. I'm really hoping we can do a lot more. Yeah, it's like we're running out of time really fast. Hello, are you guys there?
Yeah, following.
Okay. So, okay, luckily we have a question from someone now. Someone is saying, can't the layout be created in Power BI instead of PowerPoint? Yeah, you can do your layout in Power BI, right? So the reason I advocate for creating your layout outside Power BI is because when you are loading your reports, you want your reports to load very fast, right? For example, if you're creating this layout in Power BI, look at this carefully. We will have this. The navigation bar at the top has to load in. Sorry, the title bar at the top has to load. The navigation bar at the side has to load again. This shape here has to load. You have this right here, it has to load. You have this. So all these things, all these different elements will have to load. And each of this is going to add to the loading time of your report. So what you want to do is, as much as you can, you want to minimize the number of elements you have on your report page. You want to have as fewer elements as possible. So I don't know if you've noticed where you have reports, where the report is loading, you see a lot of stuff will start loading and everything will be rolling. Sometimes by the time you want to leave the page, that's when some elements will start loading in the report. You don't want instances like that. So you would want your background to be a single image. You want your layout to just be a single image that loads once. This reduces the number of elements and it also improves the performance of your reports. Yeah, in a very small report, then the difference may not be noticeable. But if you have a very large report, for example, I work with large reports where you have data for 5, 6, 7 years, millions of records per day, right? So for a single day, you have millions of records. Imagine you have that for 3 or 4 years. So that's going to affect the performance of your report. A lot of things will be loading very, very late, and you don't want that to happen. So that's why we advocate for creating your layout outside Power BI, for example, maybe using Figma or using PowerPoint as I just did here. So I believe that should have answered the question. Great. So let's look at something simple. Let me do this. Push this here. We have date, we have other dates. And I think there's a ship date. Then another part of also creating, one of the things that will also help you create an immersive report is dependent on how you model your data, right? So if your data is not properly modeled, you're going to run into a lot of issues. Your summaries, tooltips, and other stuff that you want to show in your report will not work very fine. So you take data modeling serious, but it's not really, we're not really heavy on data modeling today. So coming back here, you can use icons as part of your navigations, but we don't want to go into that since we are mostly out of time. So let's do something simple. Here I spoke about layout, I spoke about buttons, spoke about navigation experience, which is what we just did. Then we want to talk about bookmarks. So there's some information, because you want your report to be simple and easy to work with. You want to create simple bookmarks in your report, something that can serve. You can choose to use the bookmark icon, but most of the time I use the button icon, right? Depending on where you want to see this. So let's say you're creating a report for both monthly and weekly cohort analysis. You want your users to be able to switch. In this view, you should be able to switch for this whole visuals here, 1, 2, 3. Your users should be able to switch between monthly and weekly, right? You don't want to create multiple pages for example. So, and you want one of the visuals to load by default, maybe the monthly one. So we call this monthly. So we want the text to be white. Yeah, want the text to be white, and you can duplicate these and going to expand this to the end. Put this in the middle. Yep. So we have our monthly, this is going to be weekly. Great. Yeah. So you want to differentiate between what has been selected and what has not been selected, or you want to differentiate between the current page and the previous page, or what they're currently seeing. So what you want to do in this instance is to modify this to, let's see, you can use the fill. You use the fill to show your difference. You turn this on, and let's see. Most of the time when I work with buttons, I try as much as I can to, when necessary, I turn off the border. I don't use the border. So we have a field with a transparency of 90%. You would want to control this as well. Let's see, monthly cohort. Yeah, this stands out a bit, but not very much. So you telling your users that, okay, this is monthly cohort if you want to use this. And Another thing again is that by the time you're doing this, you would want to differentiate these two visuals from this, because they should be telling a different story, right? So you can now start working with the background. For now, you can start thinking about how you insert shapes into this. Inserting the shape here is actually very simple, but what you want to do is you want to send it back, right? The order, the button you just inserted should be at the back, but that's not all. You would also want to control the color of the button that you have there. So you would want to use the previous color I just used, which serves as the background for that. Align and where are you? Send to the back. Now you have your weekly and monthly. You can start controlling this now. Turn off your, okay, there's no border. Modify the filters. Where are you? Okay, for the selected, we use a different filter. We use grayish. Then for the text color, we use, where are you? This is the text color. You would want to use this color. This tells you that you are on a monthly view. I can extend this if I want to. But if for any reason you want to extend, you always make sure that the color of your background and the color of the button that you have here aligns. And if you're struggling with dragging your values, you can always come here to insert the width that you want to use manually and see how it affects it or how it shows on your dashboard. Because sometimes dragging may not necessarily help you. And I believe doing this also helps because you have more control over what you're working with. So we have the monthly view, we have the weekly view. Now you can create your bookmarks. Your bookmarks will just be simple reports. Let's do this. So we have one, report one. And we have reports two, and then we have report three. Now you have three visuals that gives you your analysis at the monthly level. Then you want to be able to switch to a weekly level. You use bookmarks to do that. Creating bookmarks in Power BI is actually quite simple and easy. You just go to view, you have the option for selection and visuals. Then I'm also a strong advocate for naming your visuals, right? If we have created some huge analysis here, maybe monthly sales, weekly sales, you want to rename each of these. Where are we? Let's go to fact orders. Then let's do now y-axis, let's do x-axis, let's do this. Total sales to be sum of sales, and our y-axis, we want to keep the, let's see, not you, let's go to dim date. So maybe we want this at a monthly level. So we can switch this rather. So start of month, great. So we have something simple here to work with. Then here we want our total sales. Sales by, let's say, customer segments. Let's see, yeah. So by customer segment, and let me minimize this so I can see what is happening. And then we can see sales by, let's see, where are you? Sales by product. So we go to our table here, we have product category. Great. Now you have three visuals that help you understand your sales, right? You can choose to do your sales start of month. This will be sales by month. Just remember this: sales by month, sales by segment, sales by sales category. From here, we can create simple bookmarks that will help our users navigate our reports, all I have to do is select these visuals, which are the first visuals we have here initially. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this. I just duplicated this, so I'm hiding this first set of visuals. Remember, this is supposed to be at a weekly level. The second set of visuals. Ctrl Z. Okay, something is missing. Take this here. How many minutes? Oh, we have 51 minutes. I want to show you how to create bookmarks, but my expectation is, let's see what we have left before I continue. So we have bookmarks, we have default tooltips and report-based tooltips. We can also use report tip, page tooltips to add a baseline. So you give context, you give additional information that is not present. 1 hour seems like a very short time. So you get to give additional information that is not available on the original page. So my expectation is that everyone here, the people here are not new to Power BI, right? It means that you know how to use Power BI, you know this, you know how to use these terms, and you can easily implement them. I was hoping I will have the time to show you how to implement every bit of this. Then the last one is drill through. For me personally, I feel like drill through is underused, right? So for each product, you can show the top selling products. For each product, you can look at the top performing category. You can use drill through to show people this, and they can see that. So people say, okay, we have this segment of product that is selling very well. How is it performing? Or we have sales in this particular region. How can we see the product that's selling in that region? So sometimes these are things we call it I call it like follow-up analysis. You've already created a simple report. You've already created a simple report that shows sales by month on your first page. It also shows sales by segment and sales by, okay, there should be sales by, what's the word for it? Product category. Segments. We go to the product table and we use the product category, which shouldn't be showing this way. Let me see, come here. Yep, product category. So you see this sometimes like, okay, can you give me the top selling product for the category technology? Can I see the top 10 selling product? So how do you do stuff like this? Do you now start creating new visuals, new reports with a simple drill through? For example, people can drill through to see the top selling product for each category. Let's create a simple drill through page here, for example, for the purpose of this explanation. Let me drag this back here and let's leave this. We can look at our product name, sales amount. Let's see. Product name is a bit shabby. We can limit this. Creating your top 10 sales is actually quite simple. Remember that the focus here is not analysis. The focus here is how you use the existing features you have in Power BI. How do you use that? How do you use that to improve, to create an immersive experience? So we're not worrying about, yeah, you know how to write DAX formula, that is good. You answer business question, that's good. Which is why you see I'm not heavy on analysis here. So I'll go to this and I'll just do top N. Top 5 performing products. Then we want to filter this by value. So we have the top 5 performing products for this particular region. Because of how the product names are structured, maybe you're better off presenting this in a simple table, and you would want to use something as simple as, let me call this page top 5 products. That's super easy. So what you want to do next is go to your filter pane, and you have, what's it called? You have our filters on this page. Take this out, take this out. And let me see. Yep. That's great. So what we have to do next is just come here for our drill through. We add sales. That's super simple. So from our page one, and this is a page that is going to be hidden on our report. We see that we have the option to right click to drill through. Now you can see top 5 products. Now imagine if you have, for your drill through, you have top 5 products. You have the bottom 5 products. Imagine if you have top performing sales rep. Imagine if you have maybe after top performing sales rep, you have sales last year, for example, or maybe a drill through that says a deep dive analysis. So you see that you are able to give your customers or your report users more information about this without them having to ask for it. Because if you activate your drill through, it's super easy. They come here, they can see the top 5 products for this. You click on this and now you're seeing the top 5 products. When you come here, you see that you're seeing the top 5 products for the segment of customer, which is something you can also show at the top here using selected value and other advanced features. So I would really like to, I'm surprised that I took much time here. I was hoping more of this will allow us to do some practical and stuff. So unfortunately, we couldn't go much. So I know you have questions. So I would like you to ask your questions. Maybe if you have any clarification or understanding. Yep, we can continue from there.
Wow, this is looking really, really beautiful.
Thank you.
And yeah, if you have any questions, like now would be a really good time to add them to the chat section, right? So that Linson can attend to them. I think you have touched on a very, very, often underlooked aspect of report design and dashboard, design generally, right? Like this immersive experience. It's really good to see how you have basically used Power BI components as well as PowerPoint to generate a very engaging report, I would say. Yeah. And
thank you.
In terms of those color palettes, I'm totally with you. I agree with you on like choosing a very decent color palette from the very beginning. And you can see how it's playing out even as you switch between bookmarks, showing which report is highlighted. So Abdullahi has asked a question in the chat saying, is it possible to add navigation to visual elements on our dashboard?
Yes, it's possible to add navigations to visual elements in your report. Actually, I use it a lot, right? I wish I can show you that. So what you do with navigation is that you have to, it's kind of, okay, I'm with you.
Animation to navigation. I'm not totally sure I follow that, but what do you interpret that as?
Okay, this is what I interpreted, right? For example, I have a card. Okay. I have a card that says total sales. Okay. Then what I do sometimes is I go to insert. So I insert a blank button on this card. Let me change the background of this page, excuse me. So what I do sometimes is I add a blank button. Remember, this is the button, right? So this is a button, and this button we have something like a text. Not on default, the on default will be blank, but the on hover is not going to be blank. That's for the purpose of this question, I'll just say view more, right?
Yeah.
I'll just say view more for the purpose of this. So, when someone is saying this, let me take out the, what's it called? Let me take out the borders. I'll take out the borders. Then for on hover, I will also increase the font size a bit. I'll increase the font size. And I'll also add a fill when someone hovers over it. So the fill is going to be something, let's just do something random. This. Do you see that, right? So it's not enough. Let me increase the fill and hover. So I'll make the fill no transparency. Good. You see that now? So you have something like this. You have total sales, you say view more, right? So your view more, you are prompting the person to take an action. Okay, so you want to add an action, turn this on, and in this instance, you're navigating. Okay, you're navigating to, let's say, page 1, for example. So let's say maybe you just have cards here, a lot of cards here that talks about sales. So when the person is clicking on this card, the person knows that he's finding more information about sales. Do you get that? So you have many cards on a page, because there are sometimes some people will tell you that I just want to see summary. So you create something like an overview page, right? So the overview page just gives a summary of total sales. Another card gives a summary of total profit. Another card. So sometimes they ask for this lots of cards, and people will want to dive beside your normal drill through, do some other stuff, right? Now, users can just come to total sales, and when they see view more, they can click on this, and now they can get to understand more about that sales. I don't know if that answers the question.
I think that covers it quite succinctly, right?
Yeah.
There's also another question here, right?
Okay.
If you have opportunities for, provision for consultation outside this, right? Can they reach out to you? Do you have, I think Linson is available on LinkedIn, right? They can reach out to you on LinkedIn, right, directly. Yeah. Okay. I think a lot of people are just talking about how great the session is, really. It's been awesome. It's been awesome. Does anyone have any further questions, right? Because I think so a key aspect you mentioned there was using the background helps your report load faster than designing the components within Power BI, right? Like designing the backgrounds and all that.
Yeah.
I think that's really awesome. Okay.
Yeah, because some people try to design everything in Power BI, right? So they have many elements. So what you want to do is to, as much as you can, reduce and control the number of elements you bring into your report, right? You want to limit it, because the more elements you have, the more time it's likely going to take for your report to load, especially if you're working with a large data set.
Okay. And I think it would be great if we could even have a session later on how, like, this is just really, really good, and it would be really good to see something more in terms of this report design and building immersive experiences in Power BI.
Okay.
Yeah, but yeah, this is awesome. I will be in touch later.
Okay.
Oh, one more before we go. Let's take this last one. It says, what if we play with the canvas size on Power BI? Is the PowerPoint draft still useful?
No. So what I highly recommend is that you would have already decided on the size you want to use, right? Are you with me?
Yeah.
You would have already decided on, let me see this. Let me see, where are you? Let me drag this down a bit. Yeah. So we have background, take out background, we have view, so outline, sort bar. I'm looking for something that I'm not finding. Come, let me start a new page. New, take this out. Let's see. Okay, that's great. Yeah. Take this out as well. And now you can start worrying about your, let me see. Where are you? For some weird reason. Okay, yeah, this is it. So design, and I don't know why I had to look for this today. That's weird. So what you would want to do is to come here, right? So you have the standard size. Remember, this is the default size in Power BI 16:9, right? So if for some reason I go to Power BI and I change this size to, let's say I create a page with a size of canvas settings. Let's say I go here and I said the height is 1,500 and I say this is 2,500. So, and I want this to align to the middle. So 1525, don't forget that. So when you go back to PowerPoint, what you would want to do is come here and go to custom size. Just when I started, I used to worry about going to Google, convert the values, right? So what I do here, I already know that my width is 2,500 pixels. Just enter the value here. PowerPoint is going to do the work for you.
That's a nice hack.
Yeah. So this is 2,500. Then let me come back here. I need to also do the what's it called? I need to also do this. The height is 1,500 pixels. I can also re-enter. Yep, you see the conversion has taken place. Do you see that? I'll just click on OK, maximize feed, and now we have this. So you can do your design, right? Do your design. Let me see. So you see that what we had initially is going to scatter up a bit. You need to modify some stuff, start realigning. You get that? Let me do this. Yep. So you have this. You have a lot of stuff that you have to realign. But on this page, we can start inserting our values. So just for the purpose of the question that you asked, let me go here. Okay, comment. Oh, I think you said you can reach out to me on LinkedIn, right? So you can insert. My name is Linson Abah. I'm super easy to find. I think there are quite a few number of people with that name in Nigeria. So,
yeah.
So you find me really quick. So you do this and we do this. So I'm not going to do everything like we did initially again because of time. So I'm just going to select this as the top color as a fill, not text fill, not text. We don't want text. Take you out just to be sure that I work to the shape. Yep. 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 Come back here. I keep going back up. So this is shape fill. So you would want to use this. And for this, we want to use, yeah, I think something like this is fair. So this is this. And I remember we changed the background a bit, right? Layout, slide, background format. Let's change this to, I believe, gray. Yeah, this is grayish. And we did a bit of, I've ended up doing this all over again. So what you can now do is you can insert this current, you can export this current page. If sometimes you don't want to work with the background, you can actually export just these two things I did. You can save just the parts if you don't want to export the whole page. So I'll put this on desktop and it's going to stop as save as image one. All I need to do is go back here. Where are you? We're here, canvas settings. No, we're in wallpaper. Yeah, we have our wallpaper, canvas background, browse. Thank you. Desktop. Where are you? This should be it. Click on insert. And remember, you have to take out transparency. Do you see that now? So we had 1,500 and you see that fits well. So it means that if we start inserting other stuff here in PowerPoint, they will all fit well here in Power BI. You get? So whatever size you use here in Power BI, I recommend, since you don't want to worry about the conversion, just type it directly in Power BI. And you should always remember that Power BI is using pixels, right? So when you're entering it in PowerPoint, you type 1,500 pixels and Power BI will do the conversion for you. Yeah.
Super interesting hack there, Linson. Yeah, and I'm sure I'm going to use that a lot in my workflows. The conversion, even now, I have been going back to like Google search to see, hey, what's 1080 pixel by pixel in centimeters. So that's really cool to see. All right. Time is fast spent. Thank you very much, Linson, for such again engaging experience for not just myself, but I'm certain for a lot of listeners today, right?